But Tanmay, you beach में said you've over-indexed, and I want to talk about. I wanted to ask you about this whole thing, like the reason I went into your childhood, and because I know that you were into a lot of extracurricular stuff during your college. Like I've heard stories of Malhar and everything. So did this play a part into you trying to be funny as well? Like, do you think comedy came from somewhere there, or the tendency to get attention or validation from people for something else, if not for good looks, just a class?
Yeah, it was the only reason.
Yeah.
It was the only reason. In my class, we had a rule in like second or third standard where every day your bench partner would change. Like the left side of the row would go ahead and the right side would come behind. So you got to be bench partners with everyone. And I had a crush on a girl in class she was my first crush ever. And when I was partners with her for a day, that day was like, I look forward. I used to count like, 14 days from now, I'll be sitting next to her. Okay. You do the math and then beach mein koi public holiday aa gaya and it'd be like, fuck, like it got delayed by a day and I got to wait an extra day. And you would just pray कि जिस दिन वो मेरी partner बनेगी उस दिन absent ना हो जाए वो. नहीं तो फिर 40 दिन लगेगा और वो मौका आने का. So I remember that day, the stars all aligned. Like she was not absent, she was present. We got a ton of free lectures that day. Teachers didn't come. जो teachers आई वो भी my favorite subjects like English and math. She was weaker at one of those subjects, so we got to talk a lot, and we generally got to have a lot of like civil time, non-student time, just generally catching up, etc., etc. And the next day, I heard her tell someone saying, "I really enjoyed being partners with Tanmay because he's very funny." And since then, I was like, "Yo, this is my shit, yo. This is my identity now." Then, of course, at some point, teachers also say that. Then I used to become class monitor. So there'll be a lot of interaction. Staff room mein teacher bolti thi ki, hey, this kid is very funny. Huh? He's a bakchod fellow. He don't say bakchod, but that's the vibe that I got. And so it became my identity. And then slowly, once you find one quality that you realize is, hey, this is a quality about me that other people like, then that becomes your identity and then you can't let go. Then I started being like, oh, what is like the pinnacle? Oh, I didn't realize that being a comedian was a thing. Who else do other people find funny? Johnny Lever. People find Johnny Lever funny. I went and bought Johnny Lever cassettes. I started memorizing all of it. Then it just became like, it just becomes so part of your personality that you just cannot switch off after that. You just like every party, birthday parties you'd go to in school. You'd want to be the life of the party. It just became being a funny kid was such an integral part of who I identified as, that being either a comedy writer or being a comedian was inevitable. Like it was such a part of my identity that I remember in the 8th standard, I decided that all the essays, you'd have to write an essay in every English paper. I decided that I would just make my essays also funny. And then the teachers, most people क्या करते हैं वो रट के आते रहे ना, हम तो पूरा ऐसे रट के आते रहे एसएससी में तो. And मैंने डिसाइड किया मैं रट के नहीं आऊंगा क्योंकि जो रटा हुआ था वो थोड़ा सीरियस था, हम इसको भी फनी बनाते हैं. And then Mrs. Putran, who was my English teacher then, she rewarded me in front of the whole class saying, I want to reward you for being original. That was another. She rewarded me for being original, dude. Can you imagine in SSC school being rewarded for being original was like unheard of. Like, and getting more marks than the class topper in one subject was such a big deal that then I started prizing being original and being different much higher in my head. So all these things, they really play a part. So yeah, being called funny as a kid kind of changed my trajectory of how I thought. I was never called, he's very brainy or, he's very this thing, padaku, I was always funny, street smart, fun. Like that's the zone that I always was in. That's what I was always called. So it just kind of became my personality. And of course, if you're an overweight child, the backbenchers would always bully you, right? The backbenchers were, so to say, like the thugs of the class. They're like, the boys who जिनकी टाई हमेशा बंदी हुई नहीं रहती थी, स्कूल में उनके थोड़े बाइसेप्स होते थे. Like when you would push them once in a while, you'd feel their pecs and you'd be like, fuck, in school, like how do you have, look, if you touch me, I'm fully soft. Those kind of boys would kind of bully you. They'd be the one to pass comments on you.
Yeah.
What is the leg up that you had on them? That you are better at studies. मैं first आता हूँ, मैं third आता हूँ, कम से कम मैं fail नहीं होता. So you sort of attaching your differentiator and or self-worth to some sort of productive achievement, while being funny was a social achievement. It wasn't like a productive achievement. Then that productive achievement went from marks in school to salary to eventually views. Like eventually you just start attaching your self-worth to different things. The scary thing is if you ask yourself, if you want this, if you didn't have this, what would your life amount up to? Would you be happy? And that's the thing that I don't want to answer now. Like, if you ask me saying, if you want, do you think people ask like, do you think you'd be okay if you weren't a public figure? I'd be like, I don't know. Like, I want to say, yeah, I'd be fine. Do you think you would like it if people didn't come and ask for selfies? I want to say, yeah, life would be so much better. But I don't know. If so much of my existence and validations is dependent on this, I don't know how I'd feel. I think that's the next phase and challenge. Like as I'll enter my, eventually my 40s and 50s, and you want to start living life for beyond this stuff. And I think losing weight and feeling good about yourself, and as cliche as it is, liking you for who you are, that's like step one, to not give a fuck about everything else.